assistance needed.
Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today I am back with another build video. This one is going to be slightly different in that it's a recreation of one of my favorite PvE builds I have ever put together for The Division 2. And the reason I felt compelled to really do this recreation was kind of two reasons. The first is that I'm not kidding you, anytime I feature this build in the background gameplay of a video or I use it in a stream, I get at least one person asking, what is this build? Do you have a video? Can I have a link? And I did make one a while ago, but the second reason that I really want to do this recreation is that in the context of Heartbreaker being a thing now and being such a powerful AR set, I really wanted to remake this and kind of point out the highlights for why I think this build is so good. I'm not saying that it's necessarily better than Heartbreaker. The two certainly compete in my opinion, and I think they both have their strengths and weaknesses, but this build certainly has its own things individual from Heartbreaker that make it a very good set. And really the whole original idea and purpose of this set when I first made it, or this first build, was that I replaced it with Hunter's Fury. If you know me, I'm somebody who really likes that run and gun playstyle. I like a lot of on-the-go healing and survivability, and so Hunter's Fury is really the perfect set for my type of playstyle, and I replaced Hunter's Fury in my loadouts with this build. So that should give you a sense of how strong it can be, what kind of playstyle it reinforces, and using some things, like I said, in the AR category that really back that up. And I think it's a really fun set. It's always been one of my go-tos for anything in the open world, control points, resource convoy farming. You've seen it in that video that I did recently. It's just great. And so with so many new people approaching the new seasonal content, with so many people, doing all these things in the game again, I wanted to put this back out there for people to try out because I really do. It is one of my favorite and go-to builds, without question, for the majority of PvE content in The Division 2. So without further ado, let's just get into the breakdown. Alright, well, let's get right to it. As you can see from the overall breakdown here, this is a true Patriot build, which at first glance, you might be like, well, how does that compete with Hunter's Fury? It actually does a lot of different stuff. So in the way that Hunter's Fury, confuses its targets nearby the ones that you kill, when they're all affected by that, it gets that disorient radius around it. The similar effect kind of happens with True Patriot, because if you didn't know, at the end of the 4-piece, if you have somebody that's on the red, white, and blue debuffs and you kill them, it creates that explosion within a 5-meter radius. Now, that's not really the focus of the set or the build in any way, but it kind of functions similarly. And what you get is a similar experience where you can get increased ammo capacity, increased magazine size, which very much helps for the Chameleon that I'm using on here or anything else. And then with all of these debuffs, you just get a very similar experience to Hunter's Fury, and in the sense that you can use it with an AR, because you know you're not restricted to, and of course you can use an AR with Hunter's Fury gear set. I've done that myself, and it was actually kind of fun, but you're not getting bonuses that are just specific to SMG and shotgun. You can use this universally, and it works very, very well with this setup. And so, as you saw in the gameplay, it does. And so I want to kind of break that all down and show you how those all work together. And in addition, once I break these all down, I do want to kind of provide some context of how this works compared to Heartbreaker, because like I said, I'm making this video in a whole new light and a whole new context of Heartbreaker being a thing with TU15. And so I'll do that after I break down the pieces and give you a sense of how it all works. Starting off with, of course, our primary gun, the Chameleon. Now, the Chameleon, I feel like it's a lot of flack. I feel like it is still a very underrated weapon. It's an AR by classification, but it functions so similarly to an SMG that you can pretty much use it as that, and that's why I find this build to be so fun, is because True Patriot is much more universal. It works with the AR archetype, and you can function with it still similarly to an SMG, and it just gets so many damage bonuses, and when you stack that with the Memento and with True Patriot, you just culminate in such an awesome experience. So, it of course comes with those attributes. It's a really great crit chance builder, because it comes with that 9.5 on the attribute, and then 15 on the sight, and so you can still build really good crit, even though you're using a gear set, which inherently, nerfs, quote-unquote, your amount of stat values, and you can see I'm still hitting 54, 101, It's very good. So going back to the gun, if you don't know what it really does, it basically builds up 3 different bonuses. By hitting leg shots, you build a ton of reload speed, which is always what I go for first, as you might have seen in the clips, because it really just helps you maintain that damage output. Hitting body shots gives you 90% weapon damage, and headshots gives you 20% crit chance and 50% crit damage. So once I hit that headshot one, I'm then at maximum crit chance, and 150 crit damage, which paired with the body shot weapon damage, it's just an insane bonus. So I really do think the Chameleon is underrated. I see a lot of people say they don't like it, they don't run it for whatever reason, but once you get used to it, once you work around its bonuses, it's just crazy. And you can see, if you haven't used it before, those 3 little hexagons next to the gun there, those are what track your bonuses. So there's no enemies in here for me to shoot and show you, but you'll see in the gameplay that when you're hitting leg shots, the bottom of those 3 will build up, and when it's orange and it's still building up, that means you're still working up to it, and once it turns white and you get the full effect, that means that it's active and you have that bonus present. And then the middle one is, of course, the body shots, and the top one is the headshots. And similarly, if you haven't used True Patriot before, on my shoulder, you'll see it rotating through those different symbols. That's how you know which debuff you're activating. So we'll get to that in just a moment, but the red, white, and blue are how you track those, and it'll show up on the enemy as well. And so this is a very visual set. You can see what bonuses you have active, you can see what's working with you and against you, and it works very well. So I use the Chameleon, and like I said, what's even great about this is that they buffed it at a certain point so you can retain the bonuses that you get when you're out of combat. So if you still have all 3 of them left with 25% of their duration when you exit combat, they all refill and wait for you to get to the next segment of combat. The one tip I will offer is that try not to switch your weapon when you have these things active, because it removes all of your active bonuses, right? So if you have 2 out of 3 of these active and you're working towards the 3rd one and you switch to your pistol to kill somebody and switch back, they're all gone. So just be wary of that when you're fighting. I certainly am when I'm in the middle of combat with this stuff. For your secondary, run whatever you want. If you want an SMG, do that. I like the mop because you get a bit of armor on kill, helps provide some of that sustain that you lose a little bit of from the Hunter's Fury built-in bonuses. But truly, whatever you want to run here is up to you. And then my pistol, I have the Orbit, just like all the rest of my builds. Moving on to the actual set, we have True Patriot, which we were just talking about. But if you don't know how it works, I'll briefly break it down. As you saw on my shoulder, it rotates every 2 seconds between which of those debuffs you're currently applying to people, and anybody you shoot gets marked by red, white, or blue. Red amplifies the enemy's damage taken by 8%, basically means you deal 8% additional damage to them. The white means that when you shoot an enemy that has it on it, you're repairing 2% armor per second, so 2% armor regen when you're shooting, pretty solid, mixed with the Memento, that's pretty good. And then the blue is basically an 8% damage debuff to whatever enemy has it on. And as I said, once you have somebody with all three of the debuffs on them and you kill them, it creates that firework explosion that does radius damage, and it's very, very solid. So on the mask, I have weapon damage, crit chance, and a crit chance mod. For the chest piece, I have one piece of Fenris, of course, to buff up my AR damage as much as I can. On here, I have weapon damage, crit chance, crit damage, and a crit damage mod with obliterate. Some people are going to have different opinions here. Some people are going to want to run Unbreakable. Some people are going to want to run the True Patriot chest piece and something else. I really like obliterate because it just lets me build that much more damage from a separate stack builder, and it just culminates in a great experience. Like, I don't have that much else to say about it. You've seen in the gameplay, this is just how I like to run it, but I certainly encourage you to experiment a bit. I would say this is the least important part. I think the Chameleon, True Patriot, and the Memento is the combination you should try. And then whether or not you want to run this, you want to run something else, try it out and let me know how it goes. Moving on to the holster, I have an armor roll and a crit chance roll there. Obviously need to optimize that one a little bit. Then I have the Memento. This is, again, another essential component of the build, in my opinion. This really helps fulfill everything that you get from Hunter's Fury and kind of puts you beyond that. The reason why I really wanted to ditch that one in the first place. So the Memento, of course, is a fantastic exotic. You get all three of the core attributes. You don't get any regular stats, but I do have a maxed out crit damage mod on there. And then, of course, the description is very long, but basically what it does, if you haven't done it before, when you kill an enemy, they drop a trophy, and when you pick that up, you get both a short and a long-term bonus. The short-term bonus depends on how many core attribute rolls you have. So I have 3, as you can see on here, 3 blues, 1 yellow, 4 reds. And so what that does, you can see right here, is it gives me 30% bonus armor every time I pick one of those trophies up for 10 seconds. That's already huge. That already really helps with the sustain a lot. I get 5% weapon damage per red, so I get 4. That's 20% extra damage for 10 seconds. And then I get that 5% skill efficiency, which of course isn't really relevant to this build. I just have that built in because of the Memento rules itself. And then the long term, you can see down there, for every trophy you get 1% damage, 1% skill efficiency, and 0.1% armor regen. So once you build up those long-term stacks, again, 30 is the cap, you have 3% armor regen, 30% extra weapon damage, and it's very, very noticeable once you build that up, especially the armor regen plus the bonus armor plus shooting an enemy with the white debuff gets you that extra bonus armor regen. It's just crazy, and it culminates in a super well-oriented sustain and damage build. So again, maybe you don't like the Memento. I just recommend you try these 3 components at least once. Give it a go, Chameleon, True Patriot, and Memento, and let me know how it goes. Moving on to the glove, I have another piece of True Patriot, of course, with armor and a crit damage roll. And then last up for the knee pads, weapon damage and a crit damage roll. Again, I didn't go over this at the start, but 4 reds, 3 blues is what I've really enjoyed and the sweet spot that I found with this build. Of course, try your own. You know, some people are going to want more blue, some people are going to want less. This is what I like. Definitely try your own setup there, but do know that it will affect how much bonus armor you get and damage from the Memento trophies, and I very much enjoy getting that 30% every time I pick one up. It just really helps with the sustain out in the open world. So, you know, try it out for whatever setup you want, but do be warned that it will impact some of that functionality. All right, now let's talk the specialization and the skills, which on a lot of my builds, I say that it's up to, you know, personal choice, whatever you think is most optimal to you. I actually have some more stricter suggestions. Of course, it's up to you if you want to try out different stuff, but I really do think that the combination of all this stuff together really is what makes the build. So before we get to these, because it is exclusive to this one, I'm using the Gunner Specialization. I think this is absolutely the best specialization to use for this specific build. What you get from it are those bonuses like armor on kill. You get that every third reload is faster, which really helps with the Chameleon sometimes, especially with the extra reload bonus you get from the leg shots. That really stacks up and builds to a really great bonus. You get the extra rate of fire upon a kill. You get the med kit, which gives you even more bonus armor, which can stack with the Memento ones. It's just a really great set that complements everything that this build works towards. So I absolutely recommend you try out the Gunner Specialization if it's not one that you maybe usually check out. And in addition to all of those things, you get the Banshee Pulse. The Banshee Pulse is undoubtedly one of my favorite skills in this game. You likely saw me utilize it in the gameplay already, and what it's so good at is just giving you a great crowd control tool. You just get to pulse anyone in front of you, stun them down, and you get that free opportunity. And what works really well with the Chameleon is that while you do that, if you want to hit those leg shots and get the reload bonus, you can do that probably before they're even off the confused status effect. And so it's a really great tool, especially if you have a lot of ads in front of you. You need to use it as a retreat option. You need to use it as an offensive option. It's super universal in that sense, and it's just great. So, and you only get this from using the Gunner Specialization, which is even more reason to use that specialization, in my opinion. On here, I'm using the cone size mod, which honestly I don't really know which one is better between the cone size and the radius that you get from the gunner spec. I would think the cone angle would be, because that's literally specific for the Banshee itself, but whatever you want to use there. And then I have the 15% effect duration one from the gunner spec, just because that's quite a powerful bonus. And then last up, I have the Revive Hive. This is probably the most interchangeable one, but when I play up close and I do a run and gun type of play style, I always have something like this with me, just to be sure I have that extra safety net in case I do go down, because mistakes happen. You know, ads are very strong, and you're going to go down at some point or another. And so to have this extra option for when you do go down, it really comes in handy for me, but of course, switch it out, use whatever you think is going to work best for you. All right, and then very last up, we have to talk about the differences between this and the Heartbreaker set, because back when I first made this build and first decided to turn away from Hunter's Fury in favor of this, you know, and I put this out and I'm like, try this build, it's so good. That was when Heartbreaker didn't exist in the world and in the game. And so now that it does, the question very much does become, well, which one is better? Which one is more useful? In Countdown, I still prefer Heartbreaker. The difficulty in there and the ads, lethality, and their health just makes Heartbreaker a really good set, because it so much focuses around that single target, huge amount of damage. And what I feel this does, better than Heartbreaker in a sense, is provide you more utility, more options, and a greater range of things that you can use at your disposal to take on the threats in front of you. And that's why I find this so good and useful and fun in places like control points, resource convoys, missions, bounties, literally anything other than Countdown. I still prefer to use this, believe it or not. And again, that's very much going to depend on your own preferences, your own playstyle. Maybe you will prefer Heartbreaker to this in some of those situations. That's just me personally. That's why I find it useful for me to recreate this build video, because again, people always ask me when I'm running, when I do run this. And so certainly give it a try. Certainly try it out in those certain situations, and I think you will have a very good time with it. Or maybe you will prefer Heartbreaker. I'm not here to prescribe one or the other, but they certainly do each have their strengths and weaknesses, as I said before, and I find that this one's strength is its versatility that you can take advantage of in the open world and in those more open-ended pieces of content, unlike Countdown. There you have it, folks. There is the breakdown for what I like to dub my Hunter's Fury AR build, even though it's not actually using Hunter's Fury, but it very much fulfills that type of playstyle and fantasy, as you can probably figure out from the gameplay and looking at all the different pieces of it. It lets you play up close with the Chameleon. You get a ton of buffs that really increase your damage and your utility with the reload. You get a bunch of sustain and armor on kill from the Memento and the True Patriot healing. It just all culminates in a really fun, really unique type of build, in my opinion. Allows you to do a lot of things that you can't with a lot of regular pieces, and so I've always had a lot of fun with this build. People that I've recommended it to always say they enjoy it, and so I certainly hope that that happens for you as well. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe with notifications on so you can be updated every time I upload. Let me know your thoughts about the little build here. Do you like it? Would you change anything? Whatever your thoughts are, be sure to let me know. As always, I will be very curious to read through them, and I believe that about does it for today, everybody. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and until the next one, guys, RogueGold out.